Good morning, everyone, and thank you for tuning in for another episode of She Constructs. I am here this morning with Rathi um, Perumal, and I've been working on saying her name. I think it's important that you say it correctly. She is an electrical engineer who was born and raised in India. She moved to Canada 10 years ago to do her master's in engineering. So, congratulations, that's amazing. She has traveled across the US and Canada commissioning different types of machinery for 5 years. And she ended up joining the building construction industry 2 years ago. So, welcome this morning.
Thank you, Paula, and thanks for that introduction.
Oh, you're welcome. Um, Tell me a little bit about your current new role in the building and construction industry here in Canada.
Sure. So I am an electrical engineer with Calidus Engineering right now. So my role is basically cradle to grave engineering, but the electrical discipline for small to large renovations and any and all types of building construction.
So, how come you decided to make a switch to construction? What led you over to this industry?
I actually didn't decide to join construction. I just kind of stumbled into it, and I'm really glad I did. My background is I did my bachelor's in electronics and instrumentation engineering. And then I worked in manufacturing for the longest time, and it just wasn't fulfilling.
Mhm.
I think one of the plants I worked in, we were making Lamborghini bumpers, and
Oh.
I was driving a '96 Honda Civic. So I don't understand why I'm spending 12 hours in a plant, a greasy, not well maintained plant, making Lamborghini bumpers for someone when this entire plant drives used cars and old cars. So it just wasn't fulfilling.
Yeah.
And I worked for an R&D firm right before this one where we were trying to replace petroleum with a vegetable oil. So that was really very cool.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
interesting.
yeah, and it was really really cool. The technology was unbelievably um, intense. It was amazing. It worked, but just financial circumstances, I had to quit, and I just landed this job.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm sure that Calibus is happy to have you.
I hope so.
Tell me a little bit about what your day would look like at Calibus Engineering. What kind of projects do you work on? Are they public projects? Are they mostly private projects? If you can share that. If you can't, that's okay.
It's a mixture of both, but because I'm only 2 years old with this industry, I mostly just work on MUR, so condos, townhouses, and then small and medium office renovation projects. So a typical day would include a site takeoff or a site investigation for a client, and then I would come back and whatever we saw in 3D, we would put it in 2D. So just creating drawings, depicting existing conditions and client meetings, figuring out what the client wants, coordinating with mechanical engineers, and just creating a new system, designing everything, and
Mhm.
conducting field reviews, getting involved in construction admin, and it's all encompassing, right? And at the end of the day, when you have multiple projects, it's not one person works on one project, you've got 10 projects on the go, so it's a
Right.
mixture of all of them, and you just close out the project when you're happy with seeing what you did on 2D come to life in 3D.
So tell me, and more so still those who are listening who aren't as familiar with construction, because we're always trying to encourage more women to, you know, consider construction as a career and promote it. How much of your job would you say is on the construction site, and how much would you say is inside, kind of like in the office setting, just to give people an idea? Um,
I think at this point in my role, it's 25% on site and 75% at my desk designing.
okay, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, just with helping to change that perception of what construction can look like. A lot of times people assume construction is all on site, right? They kind of forget about all of the things that go on the side. They think construction, they think, Bob the Builder kind of
Yes,
construction guy, boots, big trucks, shovels, and it's so not like that. And so part of this is just making sure that people can kind of paint the right picture inside their minds, right? So can you tell me a little bit? I know that you have a bit of an interesting story regarding your immigration and getting your PNG and things that typical engineers go about, with not a lot of difficulty or hardship, at least a lot of the engineers that I know that are non-immigrants. So if you can tell us a little bit about your story behind that, that would be, I think, really cool for people to hear, because I think sometimes we forget about some of the struggles and difficulties and oddities that immigration can have on people.
for sure. I just want to start off by saying Canada is not, it's not that difficult. Canada is amazing. The immigration process is really straightforward and simple, and there's a lot worse countries. So, so I'm really glad I made the choice to come to Canada. I just want to start off by saying
Well, I'm
um,
glad you're here too.
so yes, I did my bachelor's back home in India, in Chennai, and when you finish your bachelor's in Ontario or Canada, you automatically become an EIT. Is that correct? I think that's
I
my understanding.
I believe that's what Sam, I kind of talked to him about your story, and he was like, oh yeah, an engineering training. So I'm like,
Right.
okay. He's an
That's an
engineer as well.
automatic.
So
That's awesome. So that's an automatic enrollment process. But for people who don't do their bachelor's in Canada, we have to jump through several hoops to even get to that
okay.
process. And I didn't. So after finishing master's doesn't count. It counts for, I think it's about 8 credits or 10 credits you get, but you
No.
need 48 or something like that. So my
Wow.
bachelor's didn't count at all, and all I had was 8, right? So I had to prove that um, the bachelor's back home is equivalent to a Canadian accredited university, the bachelor's you get here. And
Right.
that took about 2.5 years for me to just gather
Wow.
documentation. Because
Wow.
engineering back home is 4 years, and we do 240 courses, and just gathering the transcripts of all those courses and putting together a binder of all that and proving that our bachelor's is approved by the CEAB, or Canadian Education Accreditation Board. It took a long time, and sometimes they accept that it's valid, sometimes they don't. And at that point, you have to take technical exams. So you have to go through Ohm's law, Kirchhoff's theory, and everything that I purged from my brain.
Got it. Done. Move
Done.
on.
Exactly. Who remembers laws anymore? So I think it's just that fear of having to take technical exams again. Really, it becomes a roadblock for immigrants. I want to say about 96% of my friends who were immigrants who came to Canada just like me, who wanted to do their masters, dropped out of engineering purely because of that reason.
Wow.
And
Wow.
it's
That's
not something everyone knows, right?
yeah. No, absolutely. That's incredible. Sam and I were talking about that last night after I read a little more about your story and talked to him about it, and about the hoops and how it's interesting, and how, as just, we don't understand why your master's degree in another country isn't good enough. And we talked about, we understand, okay, there's things that are different, like building codes and things that you would say at like a ground level would make sense. That, yeah, okay, you have to learn the building codes and maybe write an exam about the building code and make sure that you know it, especially if you're working in that industry, right? But the fact that so many different degrees and bachelors and PhDs from around the world are not easily transferable.
Right. I
And
mean,
it's frustrating for me as someone who's not been in that position, but has many friends and people in my community who I see are highly educated folks who, like you said, get overwhelmed and don't want to take all those extra courses and credits or hoops and years of trying to prove their worth and their value, because They already did.
Oh no, I didn't even apply to be an EIT. I just gave up. I'm like, why should I have to prove it? I already went through all this. So I never
Yeah.
applied to be an EIT. I just
Okay.
applied directly for my PNG, and that was quite the process. And
And
I finally got my
congratulations.
step. Thank you.
Congratulations on getting your PNG. It's a huge deal in the industry, and I congratulate you on that. I know it's something that people look at and they're like, "Oh, well done," right? Like it's like
Thank
a
you.
different level of like head nod. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Can you tell me a little bit about a mentor that you perhaps had throughout this um, path? Maybe it was somebody that helped you, and kept encouraging you to get your PN, to get your credits all transferred over. If it was a male, if it was a woman, uh, somebody who really encouraged you throughout the time and kept you going, kept you sticking with it.
For sure. I want to mention my first manager, my first job ever out of school. His name is Anastasios Stavropoulos, and I'm sure I'm saying his name right, but he's Greek. And the first comment he made during my interview was, "Well, of course you're finding it hard to get a job. Look at your name. I went through the same thing." So he understood where I came from, and he understood how difficult it is for an immigrant, to land a first job in Canada. And he was always the kind of manager that would have umpteen number of projects on the go, and yet know exactly what's happening in every single project. And he would go toe to toe with me when I'm making a mistake and challenge me in a very constructive way. Um, and he just inspired me to be meticulous with my work. And I think I got my work ethic from that, and
Mhm.
my dad, of course. He was the kind of manager that always took the bullet when something went wrong, and
Yeah,
always passed on the credit to when credit was due.
that's
So
amazing.
perfect first mentor, right? What more can you ask
Yeah.
for? And as I progressed, I had other mentors throughout my manufacturing career, and I want to mention Brent Williams in the job before the last job. He was the polar opposite of Stars, very quiet, very conserved. Um, but he became an organic mentor for me. So he would also challenge me, like, why do you
Mhm.
not want to get a PN? So it's difficult. So what? Like, you get to wear the ring as a badge of honor, and it's an honor to be an engineer. And he would challenge me in a very, I didn't realize he was challenging me to do it. I didn't realize, it took me a year or two to realize how much impact he had on me. And
And
then
that's amazing, right? When you're like, wow, that person was actually on my side, when at the moment it felt like, leave me alone. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're not on my side. And then you reflect back and you're like, wow, that person was awesome.
I know, and I'm so good. And I know I can talk about this for hours. And because it's such a male-oriented industry, almost every single mentor I've had has been a male mentor, and they were all. There is a little bit of friction in the beginning, but
Yeah,
once they see, how passionate you are and how energized and motivated you are, they're almost always on your side and willing to. They want to see you grow. They always
that's
do.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm glad that those stories have positive endings. I think that sometimes women, they look at construction and they hear things about construction and they assume all negative endings, right? Like it's just like done, not interested. But we like to make sure that we encourage and celebrate those positive endings and stuff. So I'm so glad that you had allies on your side.
Absolutely. Couldn't have done it without them.
Tell me one of your favorite workplace memories or moments that you've had.
Uh, um, I spent 16 and a half hours in a plant in a small town in Ohio
Mhm.
trying to get a motor to spin the right way. 16 and a half hours straight. And I want to say that's the best memory I have because we did midnight gas station pizza runs. And we need sugar. Okay, let's go to, a Dunkin' Donuts and get some cookies.
Yeah.
all we were trying to do was get the motor running. So it was just me and this electrician, and I would be programming, wearing my gloves in the middle of winter where we didn't have a wall in the plant. They were just
Okay.
constructing the plant around the machine at the
Oh, wow.
time. And I was just freezing, trying to program and having him change wiring here and there. And I think that's definitely one of the best workplace memories, in spite of it being so painful at the time. Because it's just a team spirit, and we're here together. We have this common goal, get the motor running.
Mhm.
Let's go get some gas station pizza and let's keep going.
That sounds like a fun and I'm not an engineer, and so my husband and has stories like you, and then you talk about, trying to get things working and changing, and it's not my mind cannot wrap around that part of engineering. Obviously, not ever going to be able to be an engineer going forward. But my daughter, I'm pushing her to kind of towards that industry. She loves math and science. And so I'm always looking also for women like yourself so that I can show her the
Absolutely.
awesomeness and your success so that you can help encourage the next gen, right? So
For sure.
um,
Troubleshooting might sound painful, but it's so worth it and it's so rewarding.
that's fun. That's fun. So what else did you want to talk about this morning? I'm just trying to think. I think we talked about a lot of the things here. Did you have a final, maybe words of wisdom or encouraging line that you want to share, or something to kind of motivate a woman who is either considering construction or maybe having one of those days where she just needs somebody to say, "You got this, girl."
That was me yesterday, of course. um, I think I just want to say, there's always going to be someone who's better than you. And there's always going to be someone who is standing in your path of growth. Just hold yourself accountable for your own growth. Be your own CEO, right? Because this is the most complicated, sophisticated piece of machinery in the world, that no technology can figure out how we operate. So
Mhm.
this is the best firm in the world, and be your own CEO, and don't get intimidated easily. Don't, if you feel insecure, sit with that, figure out what it is that's making you feel insecure, because that's always the blind spot for our growth curve.
Mhm.
Someone challenging us and our defenses going up. So yeah, just be your own CEO and hold yourself accountable and responsible for your own growth, and nothing can stop you.
I love that. I love that. We're going to leave it at that because I don't think I could say anything better than what you just said.
Oh, thank
That's
you.
awesome. Thank you so much for being on with me today. I can't wait to have you on another day
Oh,
and
thank
we'll
you.
discuss other things. You have a great day.
You as well, and I'm so honored to be on your podcast. And thank you so much for giving me the platform to, you know, be be a role model for girls who look like me. Really, thank you. I really
Oh,
appreciate it.
I think that you are a role model for girls that look like you and for girls that have blonde hair and blue eyes as well, because you are an amazing, brilliant, smart, kind, smiling, happy person. So
Thank you, Stella.
I would be honored for you to be a role model for my young lady. So yeah, have
I'm
a
on
great
board.
day,
Thank
and
you.
I will talk with you again soon, my friend.
Will do. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.